Hello everyone, welcome to From the Star Wars Library, where Star Wars is in print, the Force is with the readers, and we are now returning to 1979 for that year's last multi-issue Marvel storyline. I'm your host, Nathan P. Butler. This time we're taking a look at a storyline in issues 31 through, as I checked them, 34 of the Marvel series. This, of course, is yet another of those stories that can be found in the pages of Star Wars Omnibus A Long Time Ago, Volume 2. Right, we've got through Volume 1, now we are in the midst of Volume 2 here. This is a 4-issue story arc that has a lot going for it, so if you'll pardon me, I'm going to be kind of fading in and fading out quite a bit as I hit these as quickly and succinctly as possible to make sure that I don't wind up missing anything I definitely want to deal with. First off, let's check out the cover art so we know which issues we're dealing with. We have issue number 31. This is for September of 1979, but of course it has a January of 1980 date up at the top because that's when you take it off the shelves. Notice there the dewbacks and such. Luke defies the Empire on his homeworld. Return to Tatooine. A story entitled, of course, also Return to Tatooine. We have issue number 32, Jawa Express, as it says down here at the bottom. It's rolling, and not even the Empire can stop it. Join Luke, Han, and Chewie on the Jawa Express. One of the more promising covers in a while for the Marvel series, issue number 33, Luke, in a showdown battle for his life, Saber Clash. The issue, of course, entitled Saber Clash. And again, Luke has a red saber against one that is green coming from Baron Orman Tag. Still can't quite get the whole color of the lightsabers thing right in this era. And finally, issue number 34, last in this arc, Thunder in the Stars, as it says down here. No, Han's leading the rebel fleet into a trap, and stuck on this asteroid, I can't warn him! This time at least, his saber, well, it's closer, it's like white in this case. Apparently, space lets you have different color lightsabers depending on where you are in space, or something. So the general gist here is that Luke is on a mission to Tatooine with the droids, and in the process of doing his mission, he winds up running into Cammy and Fixer, his old friends who of course are still living on Tatooine. He winds up eventually in a cantina, the Mos Eisley Cantina, Cowman's Cantina, winds up bumping into Han and Chewie, so sort of brings their storylines back together. The last time we saw Han and Chewie was in Whatever Happened to Jabba the Hutt, so we haven't really got a lot of connection between these characters in a while. They wind up discovering that Orman Tag and his brother, a scientist, Silas Tag, are working on this special superweapon project on Tatooine called the Omega Frost. The idea is you've got these two tower-looking things, almost like vaporators, but like super-duper-sized vaporators, and anything caught between it is frozen solid. Banthas, the landscape, everything, to the point where it's so cold it can simply shatter at the touch and such. And they eventually wind up in space, where Orman Tag is going to be trying this out, or Orman and Silas are going to be trying this out, supposedly on the planet Junction, which is a major rebel supply location. Only it's actually not going to be at Junction. Instead, it's this asteroid field that's between the rebel base and Junction, wherever the rebel activity is, and Junction. The idea is that as Han leads the rebels in this desperate attack to take out the weapon on Junction, they will pass through that asteroid field. As they do, they'll activate the Omega Frost and wipe out the rebel fleet. Luke, meanwhile, is going and trying to take out the Omega Frost transmitters on these asteroids, only to wind up barely being able to before the entire thing goes kablooey and everybody freezes and such. He winds up basically discovering that these things are only shielded with a force field above the ground, so by cutting underneath, he's able to take out the base of the structure and whatnot to knock out the Omega Frost. But it makes for this kind of climactic ending in which, and this does play into storylines later, the rebels escape from the asteroid field and come in ready to kick some serious butt on the Tag family vessel. There's more about that we will see coming up in one of the future storylines here in 1980. So what's special here? There's basically 11 things that I find of note in this issue. Number 1, just like Tatooine's sojourn, this is bringing Luke back to Tatooine, though not for apparently the first time, assuming that A, we can go in publication order, Tatooine's sojourn did come out before this, and that B, we can take this book's word for it that Luke is 20, which, back then they said that he was 20 in A New Hope. Then they eventually said he was 18 in A New Hope, and that stuck for a while until we got Revenge of the Sith, which makes him 19 in A New Hope. So going by current reckoning, this is basically a year after A New Hope. Again, at the time, they hadn't set out exactly where it was because they weren't sure how long after A New Hope Empire Strikes Back was going to be. Number 2. Luke returns to the burnt-out husk of the Lars Moisture Farm, which is just a little bit creepy in and of itself. Of course, remember, back in Tatooine Sojourn, he visited Obi-Wan Kenobi's hut, so he's kind of like sightseeing every time he's on Tatooine, apparently. Number 3, as I mentioned, he runs into Cammy and Fixer, who are now married at this point. Now, of course, in the Marvel series, we see them in the original Marvel adaptation. We didn't, of course, see them in A New Hope at the time, though now we can see those deleted scenes either on Behind the Magic or more recently on the Star Wars Blu-rays. This is Fixer, played by Anthony Forrest, as I pointed out before, since, again, this is sort of a showcase also for my collection. My Star Wars First Edition Hardback Sci-Fi Book Club Edition is one that I got signed by Anthony Forrest. These are the stories we're looking for. And if you wanted to see what he looked like in the deleted scenes, if you're being thrown off here, this was Fixer. I got this signed at the same con Carolinas. It says, "Forget the rebellion, we're here for the beer." In any event, we get to see them, and Fixer also notes the cover story for what happened to the Lars family. Like, where did Luke go? The idea was that Tusken Raiders, of course, remember, supposedly hiding their numbers through going single file or whatever, or not doing so since it was stormtroopers. They made it look as though it was Tusken Raiders, and they said that the whole family was killed, including Luke. That was the cover. Number 4, we learned that at this time, Baron Orman Tag, the Tag family, the Tag Corporation, is in the process of buying up a lot of the moisture farms so they can do the Omega Frost testing out in the kind of hinterlands and whatnot here. That means that at one point, they are owning the Lars Moisture Farm, and Luke would have to stake a claim to reclaim it from the Tags. Given the fact that we see what happens with the Lars Moisture Farm later, presumably this is something that once the Omega Frost is ready to go, the Tag folks just don't care about anymore, and it reverts back to their original owners, in theory. Number 5, the stormtroopers in this story are carried around by an Imperial troop transport. Yes, that's a thing that first appeared not in the films, but as a toy from Kenner with its own little storybook back in one of the early Star Wars vintage toy runs. Number 6, this story features the return of Baron Orman Tag. That's one Tag child. Introduces Silas Tag, his brother. It also introduces General Ulrich Tag of the Empire. Now, Ulrich Tag was originally meant to be the same Tag general that we see in A New Hope. Only later they had confirmed that actually he died on the Death Star, so this couldn't be Ulrich Tag in A New Hope. Instead, they eventually, many years later, pinned it down to that one being Cassio Tag. So we have Cassio Tag, Orman Tag, Silas Tag, and Ulrich Tag. All that leaves is one more Tag child for us to meet. That is Domina Tag, and she is coming in the near future in the Marvel series. Number 7, as I mentioned, this is the first time we've seen Han and Luke and Chewbacca and all them together again since they split up after visiting the Wheel. At this point, this is shortly after whatever happened to Jabba the Hutt, as Han does mention that essentially what happened in that supposedly erased his debt to Jabba, though that will not last. Number 8, in this story, Chewbacca finally looks like Chewbacca. Carmine Infantino has finally got the artwork right. Number 9, Leia gives a good luck kiss to Han in issue number 34, making the one in The Empire Strikes Back definitely not their first. Number 10, as I mentioned, that whole battle with the Tag ships at the very end, we're going to see how that plays out in a little more detail in the next issue, number 35, but that's not part of this arc. And number 11, the really cool one, while he's a captive, we see Luke battle in a lightsaber duel, a real one, not a dream state this time, against Orman Tag. It's Luke's first real lightsaber duel outside of the dreamscape and such, and he manages to kick Orman Tag's butt using the Force as a guiding instinct. Winds up hitting Tag, getting away from Tag, even screwing up his cyber vision goggles, but doesn't kill him. It leaves Tag almost in like a catatonic state, looking for a chance at vengeance and just realizing just how powerful Luke is with the Force. And if Luke's that powerful, how powerful must Vader be? So overall, an interesting story with a lot of cool little tidbits thrown in here to make this something that is more memorable in the Marvel run than a lot of these early pre-Empire Strikes Back stories. So the question becomes, is this story an essential read? Honestly, I would say if you're reading the Marvel series, yes, this story is an essential read. Maybe not for modern audiences, but for Marvel readers, you need to read this to know the next step in the Tag family storyline and to finally bring our characters back together after they were separated after the adventures on the Wheel. Flight into Fury, that specific issue was, for those who are curious. So, with that, as my time is running low here, let me just say, as always, thank you for watching, and may the Force be with the readers.